The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Thank you all for joining us tonight. This is Dakota Neff, the Senior Director of Human Resources and Operations for the Sigma Chi Fraternity. We appreciate you all taking the time to join us to hear a little bit about financing and budgeting for the chapters as we prepare for the fall semester and what everything looks like as we try and recover from the ongoing crisis. As always, please, if you have any questions during the presentation, utilize the question pane on your dashboard just to enter those, and we'll have time at the end of the call for those question and answer period. And like the rest of our webinars, we will be recording this and we'll be making it live on our public webinar for viewing on demand after the call. With that said, I would like to pass it over to our Grand Queester, Ryan Temby, to start things off.
Good evening and afternoon, everybody. Glad to be here with you all. We have a very exciting, well, as exciting as finance can be, presentation for you today. Dan's going to run through a lot of material, a lot of information around how the fraternity works, what we bill for and why, what makes up your payments to headquarters. And then I'll follow on with a section on some considerations you need to take for getting ready for the fall. So without further ado, and not to make this any longer than we need to have on our Thursday evening, I want to introduce Dan Mathewson, who's our Senior Director of Chapter Support. Thanks. Welcome, Dan.
Thanks, Ryan. Hi, brothers. I'm glad all of you could make it to our webinar this evening. As you see on the screen, you'll be following through a PowerPoint with me. I'm going to go through some information about the finances in the chapter accounts and how those are accessed and how those are calculated. And then we're going to go into some other information about budgeting and how you can get some of the online resources related to that. So we'll move forward here on the fall preparedness for finance and budgeting. To begin, talking a little bit about the new member fees here. Each member in the fraternity, when they get initiated, from pledgeship through initiation, they pay a total of $500 to Sigma Chi, and that's it. They pay a $100 pledge fee, a $200 initiation fee, and that's charged to the chapter 14 days prior to the scheduled initiation. And then there are two $100 member fees that are billed out to each member upon their initiation that are charged to the chapter, one during the first semester following his initiation and one during the second semester following his initiation. So we give you a full year to pay off his member fees. And as an example, if a member was initiated during this upcoming fall 2020 semester, the chapter will get billed for his two member fee charges during the following spring 2021 semester on March 15th of that spring, and then another one in the fall 2021 semester on October 15th. Now, just as a reminder to the chapters, and I like to stress this and emphasize this whenever I can, these are considered pass-through fees. Those should be collected from your guys and forwarded to headquarters within 30 days of them being assessed. So as a chapter, you should never be in a situation of asking members to dig into their pockets to pay the stuff to headquarters. These should be, collected and immediately forwarded back to us. That locks everything out. You stay at a zero balance with us, and there's never a problem there. This is the one area where people get jammed up the most at a chapter level, is when the chapters take this money and spend it on something else to try to, cover a little bit for, a week or two, and then they get into digging this hole because they're always trying to backfill for monies that they've taken that should have gone somewhere else. So really stress the importance of passing those fees through to headquarters as soon as you collect them. Some further notes on pledge class activities. Of course, there are times when you're going to have a pledge or two removed from a pledge class. And we want to give you some tips here to follow in the event that those kinds of things happen, because we need to make sure these things get updated in our system. So to avoid any excess charges for the pledges who have been removed, keep your pledge roster updated in the chapter system using the Manage Pledges function found in the pledging drop-down menu. Now, if a pledge is removed after the initiation fee has already been assessed, follow the steps that are here in order to make sure you can get an initiation fee refund. Collect all the extra badges and certificates originally intended for the drop pledges. Package all of that stuff together in a way that doesn't allow them to get damaged during shipping. And then make sure that you provide the information noted there on a piece of paper that you include with the badges and certificates. And get all of that mailed back to Sigma Chi headquarters at the address that you see there. Make sure you get a tracking number for the package and provide that in an email to headquarters of sigmachi.org. All of this is really important. This is our way of trying to help make sure you guys get your money back when it's warranted for you to get a refund. And make sure that you don't send anything that's poor, damaged, poor condition. It's not going to be eligible for a refund at the end. And by the way, guys, there will be a chance for you to ask for questions at the end of this presentation. So make note of any things that you have questions about. We can get to those. The only other regular fraternity fees that are going to be billed to your chapter is a registration fee for Grand Chapter. Grand Chapter is held every 2 years. That registration fee is $500. So that ends up being billed to you at $125 each semester, either at the March 15th and at the October 15th dates. The leadership fee is going to be for your chapter somewhere between $1,000 and $1,800 annual based upon the chapter size. And it's billed, of course, once each semester for half that amount on or about March 15 and October 15 again. This fee covers our many leadership programs that we provide to the chapters and also the summer CROC Transformational Leader Workshop. And more information about how that fee is assessed to your chapter is based on the chapter size, and it's in the following 5 lines there. Again, this will all be emailed for you, so you can see this later on too, and always come back to this and understand how that fee is being broken out. Want to point out that there will be some billings that will hit some of your chapters from the Risk Management Foundation. Some of these are all related to your insurance, your chapter's liability insurance, and then for those of you with physical chapter house, there will also be a property insurance piece in there as well. In some of your cases, your house corporations are always going to handle this and will pay this bill, and then it's just sent out and paid through rent and other ways that your house corporation covers that. The cost for RMF liability insurance is at about $197 per man every year, which is about right in the middle for all of the fraternities in the Greek world right now. As far as the fees go, if you're just looking at only the fees, we're right in the middle of the pack as far as being most or least expensive. But we have a Cadillac plan, and we provide a much greater deal of coverage and more comprehensive coverage than literally any Greek organization gets in the Greek world. So that's actually good to know. You have very, very good coverage. We also have the ability now, and we've been doing this for a number of years with RMF, for chapters to actually reduce their per man fee. And it's just like the better driver benefits that you can get with your auto insurance. For those things that your chapters do really well that are recognized by the RMF, you can receive reductions in your premiums every year for good things, good behavior, no conduct issues that come up in your chapter, no claims, having a no claim history. All of these kinds of things play into that. If you actually get the risk assessment training that any of your regional chapter support coordinators can provide to your chapter, you actually get a 2% drop in your insurance bill for that as well. So there's a lot of things that they'll take into consideration, and you can contact Steve Davidson at sigmachi.org for more info about how you can improve your cost of RMF insurance.
Hey Dan, can you just pause a second? We had a question come in about KLTW on the previous slide. Could you just back up one slide? So the leadership fee, and thanks Isaac for asking. The leadership fee covers KTLW, but it covers it actually in arrears. We bill the fees paid this year, both in the fall and the spring, actually paid for KTLW that already occurred. So we are looking at reducing the fees and what we can do about the fees this year, given that KTLW is going to be virtual. But unfortunately, the one that's passed, we're just sort of paying it back. A great question, Isaac. Thanks for that. So we'll look to try to reduce it going forward, and we're looking at that right now. But we're as far as what you paid previously, it's already money spent. Yep. Sorry, keep going, and then go forward one more slide. I'll anticipate a great question at the end that I'll answer now. What's going to happen to insurance this year? We have heard from RMF that the insurance companies are charging more for insurance this year, but they're going to do everything they can to hold the cost at exactly the same. So expect that $197 per year per man to be what you're going to pay, and you can budget for that accordingly. The second question I always get is, why is Sigma Chi's insurance more expensive than other fraternities' insurance? And almost always they're comparing it to Beta Theta Pi or one of the other dry house fraternities. Whether or not it's dry house or not is a whole other matter. Don't need to go into that now. But quite honestly, we pay as much as we pay because we operate the way we operate. We don't have a dry house policy that raises the insurance. We do have a pledge program that raises the insurance. We have some other liberties that we enjoy as a fraternity, including RMF being our insurance company that covers some things that otherwise wouldn't have covered under normal insurance companies. So basically our rate is what it is because we like to live the lifestyle and have the kind of fraternity that we like to have. I'm happy to talk about any individual cases, but again, as Dan points out, if you do want to reduce your individual costs, you can by doing a few things, including if you were to make your chapter house a dry facility, that would reduce your liability insurance significantly. All right,
another
Dan.
thing too, yeah, and another thing I'll add to that too, just so you guys understand, one of the things that RMF does provide through our insurance that a lot of other fraternities do not enjoy is we extend our coverage to all of our volunteers, our chapter advisors, our grand paraders, our educators at workshop, anybody that is an affiliated actual volunteer that's engaged with the fraternity is covered on our insurance. I can speak directly to that point. I was a grand praetor for 16 years out in the Seattle area for the Northwest Province. And because one of my chapters was sued many years ago for deaths that occurred on chapter property, I was actually named in that lawsuit, and I had to go to several depositions. And I was, believe me, very happy to know that I was under the RMF's umbrella and protected, because that could have potentially been somebody coming after my house, my property, and everything that I have, just because I was a volunteer and engaged with my chapter. So that's something that also that we provide.
We had one more question, Dan, come in from Vincent. I think Vincent's the chapter advisor of the year too, so congratulations there if I got that right. If we don't come back to campus in this fall, are we still going to be charged? The answer is yes. Yes is the answer, because we still have a chapter, we still have needs for insurance. There are still liabilities out there that need to be covered. And so we aren't effectively shutting down any chapters. They're just not back on campus. So yeah, the answer is yes. So we do need to plan accordingly. And obviously chapters will need to plan accordingly for what they're going to collect from their members, whether they're on campus or not, just because the fraternity is still a functioning fraternity, whether they're back on campus or not. All right. Go ahead, Dan, take us away.
All right. So next, to understand that how you can, get into your chapter dashboards and so forth, just want to point out here, Queester is the CFO of the chapter. As you're its senior financial manager, you should be looking at your chapter account at least once a week, guys. Maybe even more than that, but you should be getting in there at least weekly to look and see if there's been anything that's hit your account, to see if it's starting to travel into a red zone and get past due. It's a complete chapter dashboard. It's really easy to read. It gives you a lot of information when you're there. If your chapter amount is in red letters like it is right here on this example, that means your bill is past due and you've got to get that admitted back to headquarters. The following two screenshots I'm going to have for you right here will illustrate the two avenues for you to actually access your financial dashboard. This first one is a drop down from the hamburger menu at the top right. You just click on Finances and then click on Finances Dashboard, and that brings you right there. The other way is a one-click choice, and that's just from your front page. When you log in, if you go to the right at your current budget box, right below that, there's a blue hyperlink that just says Financial Dashboard. Click on that, and you're there. Once you're there, you see everything you need to manage your chapter's finances, your account balance. All of your recent payments are going to show up there. Your current and your past budgets are there. The nice thing is you can click into your past budgets, and they all contain the name of the individual, probably, most likely the past queesters behind you that have posted those budgets. So it's nice to be able to look at that history and be able to know that you can actually reach out to the guys prior to you and talk to them a little bit about the information that they've posted up there. So it's a really, really good history that's effective for you guys to be able to look at and keep things tracked. I want to bring your attention to the latter scheduled fees box below the account balance. You see that down there. When you, as you go below that, sorry, there's just not enough room on all of these slides, but as you go below that, you can see the breakdown of not only the fees that you have scheduled to come up, but you can actually click on those scheduled fees and be able to see, for example, if you had a member fee charge there of $2,000 coming up, you would click on that and you would see the 20 members that are listed under that each have a $100 fee assessed in that particular billing cycle. So those things are all noted that way, and you can always look in there and see, and you may see, oh my God, that guy was actually let go as a pledge. I wonder why we're being billed for him. That way you can contact headquarters and let them know that needs to be updated, and you won't be charged any additional fees for people that didn't actually get initiated with that class. I want to jump now into fall budget preparation because this is going to be an interesting time for all of us with COVID-19 and the campus closures and everything that has happened as a result. We've got almost 240 chapters in the fraternity, guys, and all of you are in a slightly different circumstance. Some of you are coming back with no changes in the fall. Some of you are coming back with some different things going on with your classes, maybe some hybrid instruction that's going on. And some chapters are on campuses that are still talking about only virtual classes being taught. So all of this stuff is going to have an impact to you guys differently, and it's going to be a conversation for us today that will be very general because we just can't cover everything that all of you are going to be facing, but we are here to help you, and we will offline as the weeks and months ahead unfold. We're going to be here to help you deal with all these things as they come up. We're going to try to cover everything in broad strokes today. So in helping you develop a budget, this is going to be a really critical thing for you guys in the fall because, again, we're not sure exactly what kind of a landscape we're looking at. Want to get you to see the fall budget prep information at www.teamqueester.com, which is the summer workshop Queesters team website. You go there. This is what the web page is going to look like when you first log in, and then when you click through to the budget resources for undergraduates, because there is a section of the website for undergraduates. And then there's a section of the website for members of Team Queester faculty that they're going to have a lot of their resources in. But this is what your screen is going to look like when you're looking for resources for budgeting. Then as you click further through there to where the Queesters manual is, you're also going to find that you have a dues calculator there. So there is an Excel spreadsheet that you're going to be able to access to understand how the Sigma Chi dues are calculated. And then you've got a budget builder right there that you can click right into, and it's going to help you step by step go through and develop your budget for the fall. I've had members of Team Queister in developing this webinar presentation today tell me that they are going to be making themselves available to all of you guys over the summer. If you need any help developing your budget, they will be glad to jump on the phone with you and walk you through any and all of this that you need to get going, because you're probably going to have a lot of questions that are going to come up where experienced people on our Queister faculty will be very happy to help. Now, as we're going into more specific things that we're going to be talking about for considerations for the fall, I'm going to turn this back over to our Grand Queister, Ryan Temby.
All right, hey everybody. Appreciate your patience so far. So we're faced with a situation with coming into the fall of a whole lot of unanswered questions. For the most part, will there be classes? Will there be online classes? Will it be on site? What will the policy be for from the university as to how many people will be there? Hell, we wouldn't even know right now if we're going to have football tailgates or anything else. So I won't go through and read all of the things on the slides, but in addition to all of that concern, we need to know how many of your brothers are actually going to return to campus next fall. If one at all, keep in mind 25% unemployment means there are some people who have families have lost income and might impact their ability to come back. Certainly many of our undergraduate brothers have lost internships. Further, may have lost their part-time jobs in business and other closed down, and so we may have just simply can't return to fall. The sooner you get what that number looks like, the better off you'll be in trying to build your budgets, because that'll determine your revenue number. And then in addition to that, if you have a chapter house, or even if you have an off-campus house, you're going to want to know some things about what the universities are going to dictate as far as cleaning expenses that will come into play. How often do you need to clean? What do you do if somebody actually gets the virus while they're in the house? What the rules are for that? Making sure that they're taken care of, or if they have to leave, if they have to quarantine, if you're going to have a room for them in the house or not. Also, many of you left quite abruptly in the spring. Hopefully everything was tidied up and done, but if not, there's going to be a bit of maintenance that needs to probably be done if you haven't been back yet. Depends on what area of the country you're in. And then also think about other things that could impact your expenses. If the university says that recruitment is allowed, but you can't have any more than 5 or 10 people in there at a time, what will that mean for the size of the venue? How many different venues you need to have? How much you have to provide food and other entertainment at different smaller venues? That will all cause issues. So what we're recommending, and Dan, maybe hit the slide forward one for us. What we're recommending is that you sort of put together a couple of budgets. There you go. That sort of put together, that have the best case, worst case, and most likely, so that you what you're trying to do by doing that is you identify what you're identifying is all of the levers that you can pull if things should occur. So by building those 3 things, and they may be something like, we're assuming in our best case that all of our brothers will be back on campus and recruitment will be the same as it always has been, and so we build a budget similar to the way it's always been built. Most likely is, we'll lose, and I'm making this up, we'll lose 10% of our brothers. Recruitment's going to cost us 50% more, and we're going to have 10% less pledges. And then worst case is we're not coming back to campus at all. Our entire brotherhood was impoverished before, and now they're never coming back, and they can't afford to pay dues, so we're going to lose half of our revenue. Recruitment's going to be 4 times what it was, and we're only going to get 30% of our pledges, whatever that happens to be, so that you know if that were to be the case, here are the things that we're not going to be able to do next year as far as spending money on, because we're going to prioritize the money where it needs to be. And then I think it's important, and I'm going to let Team Queister go through that with you in gory detail. I hope you take advantage of the opportunity that they're going to be available for you. But the difference between a budget and cash management. While these things are tough and while we're in a difficult time, cash is critical to be able to make sure you have enough of it on hand to be able to spend it when you need to spend it. Dan touched on that when it was talking about getting caught up paying headquarters dues for membership fees. Like a lot of times the cash comes in to pay those membership fees, but people use it for, all kinds of things. And then when the bill comes in, there's no cash left. The budget says you should have some, but the cash is gone. So you sort of need to map your cash by month based upon the amount of money that's going to be pouring out and based on when it's going to be coming in. Once you hit the page again for us, Dan. Okay, there are some resources out here that have been really quite good stuff. The NIC think tank, they have put together a really good COVID-19 preparation resources. That's mostly for the IFCs, but it has a lot of chapter information, a lot of good stuff to think about. There's 7 or 8 webinars that are available. There's interactive sessions that have been out there, and there's also a lot of published information that you can read through to get you ready for it. Also, stigmachai.org has a lot of great information on it also, stuff that's been prepared and put out there for you. And then Dan showed you the information available from Team Queister they are actively working very, very hard at the moment to put together everything that you could ever imagine you might need in order to, both for this fall and ongoing. They're going to actually build out class Queister training specifically for the role in the office, and to make sure that we're the best treasurers in the entire fraternal world. Go ahead, Dan. Okay, final thoughts, and these are important ones. I mentioned it before, but some of the brothers have been affected in ways that you can't imagine. Just try to keep that at top of mind. Job losses, locked in a house, family members with depression, alcoholism, suicide, probably people in their family have died or have gotten massively sick. There are all kinds of awful things that have happened in the world, including hospital bills and just a lot of stress out there. So keep that in mind. Try to be as compassionate as possible. Build a budget based on that compassion. Build a budget that gives people the opportunity to pay over time. And when you're thinking about your cash, assume your cash is going to come in slower than it ever has before, because it will come in slower, and you don't want to have to be the person that has to go try to collect and be less than brotherly trying to get money, because the budget was built at a more aggressive pace, and people just simply don't have it to give or to pay. This also might be the year that you don't go to Paris for your formal, but instead have it locally. Maybe have it in a VFW hall or something a little low key, just to try to save money and be very budget conscious. I can tell you the fraternity is doing exactly the same thing. We are trimming expenses in every possible way. It's going to be a very low cost year for us. And already we've cut down on not only on travel, but on any kind of expenses that we could possibly cut. Help is available in so many places for you. You've got your regional chapter support, your chapter advisor, your grand praetor. If you've got a financial advisor in your region, tap them for sure. If for some reason all of that fails and nobody will answer the phone, which I can't believe that's the case, but if it is, just call me. I will happily help you. I will happily advise you, and I will happily give you every bit of my time and attention to get you on the straight and narrow, and then I'll go backtrack and find out why nobody answered your call, because that would be a little bit of bullshit that they didn't help you when you asked for the help. So, and I'm not supposed to curse, so sorry, church. Okay, lastly, we know this past semester has sucked. We know that your seniors got the worst treatment ever, and we know that everybody's going to come back to campus ready and roaring to go. We get it. Please, 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 please keep your heads to yourself on and do all the best you can to keep people safe and out of the spotlight, because that would be terrible. And I implore, as a leader of your chapter, as a member of your executive committee, as the rational person in the chapter, please try to get the social chairman to book some events that don't contain alcohol. It's been a very depressing, anxious period of time, and you'll have a lot of brothers who are feeling some depression and anxiety, and alcohol makes it worse. So maybe the first couple of events, try to do something that has a little less in it. I don't know, go play paintball, go bowling, something like that, that gets the brotherhood back and going, but doesn't hurt or impede upon somebody's mental health, because it's a little rough out there right now. All right, we'll pause for questions. Dan, I think that's the last slide, isn't it?
I think it is, yes. Does anybody have any questions they want to ask before we close up shop here?
We didn't lose any audience, so at least I know some people are still listening.
Yeah, we still have all the attendees that called in.
Right, well, we'll go going, gone. Give a few more seconds for questions. If you, I think you can raise your hand. I don't know how to do that, but there's a way to raise your hand. And if you want to try that, if you want to type a question in, that's fine. Or, oh, here we go. How do we push for brothers to pay their dues if they can't afford it? Well, Hunter, you can't, right? You don't. You set up a payment plan with them, and it may be very slow, and that's part of your budget on where you build for most likely and worst case scenario, and you do everything you can to try to accommodate that brother, because we while they have a financial obligation to the fraternity, and we all accept that, we also have a bunch of other responsibilities to that brother. They probably don't feel great about not being able to pay. So try to build a payment plan with them that maybe it's a little lighter in the fall and a little heavier in the spring, as the part-time jobs come back in and they're able to pay it. So I would say, I know you need to pay your bills, and I know that bills need to get done, and I know brothers need to pay, but be as human and brotherly as you possibly can, because there are absolutely going to be brothers who maybe for the first time in their life aren't able to pay bills, and it's going to be a difficult and stressful time. Good question, Hunter. Thank you. Will RMF costs be lowered, Andrew? Actually, sadly, no. The indication that we've gotten across the insurance world, whether it's Sigma Chi or otherwise, is that insurance costs are going up by anywhere from 10 to 25%. What RMF has done, and I know this is not the question you were hoping here for, but what they've done is they've guaranteed us that they're not going to raise costs. So that was a huge win this year. I know that sounds like not like a huge win, but believe me, it was a huge win this year. So make sure that you're, and they bill again based upon your roster. So make sure your roster is updated as soon as possible with brothers that are actually going to return to school and be in the chapter, because you're going to pay the 197 times the number of brothers that are in your chapter. All right, great questions. Owen, it's nice to see you, Owen. Should we still pursue legal collections for brothers who were negligent prior to the pandemic? Oh, yes. No, I think you should absolutely. If they hadn't intended to pay, they haven't paid before the pandemic, then they, in those cases, especially if they haven't set up a plan with you, Owen, they're more than likely not willing to pay, and that's a whole different matter than those that are unable to pay. So keep going down that path. Again, if you find out it's gotten worse for them, et cetera, we can always be human and have a heart. But the ones who owed money before are probably unwilling to pay. And so we've got a whole different issue. So yes, I would continue to press through those matters um, as you had previously. All right, sorry. Specifically alumni. Oh, for sure, recent alumni. Yeah, sorry. Thanks, Owen. Didn't see that part. For sure, recent alumni, and they're a little harder to collect from. Absolutely, but don't hesitate to send in your member accountability forms for those people, and we'll make sure they get noted in the Sigma Chi system, so that if they owe you some money and they try to join an alumni chapter, they will have a difficult time or not be able to actually join and become a member because they owe money, which will help in your collections. Carlos asks, where do we check our account? I'm sorry, I'm new this semester. Hey, Carlos, if you'll send me an email, ryan.temby@sigmachi.org, we just got to figure out which chapter you're in, and then we'll go ahead and get your regional coordinator to give you a call and help you walk through all that you need to know to get you up and running. And then that'll all come through when we get the officer training done for KLTW this year. I think KTLW this year. I think that'll really help. So if you'll send me that email, or you can send it to Dan, either one, and we'll get you some help specifically on that, Carlos. Good question. Thanks. Is this PowerPoint going to be available? Christopher, you get the $1 million question. Yes, of course. We'll send it out after to everybody who registered and make it available on the website. Somewhere. I'm certain the marketing team will take good care of us. Noah asks, we are scheduled to get.
Sorry, real quick, I just wanted to say this whole webinar is going to be recorded from what I understand. So they'll be able to, anybody that wasn't able to come here today will be able to actually access this and go through it all. So we're going to be TV stars.
Great. Excellent. Thanks, Dan, for reminding me of that. Really good point. All right, Noah says, we are scheduled to get our charter and have our installation in October. Hey, Noah, that's great news. How exciting is that? As a person who was part of a new chapter, I absolutely understand and know how you feel about how excited it is. Sorry, I digress. And I know that we need all the money collected from brothers to get initiated. What would you suggest I tell them so that they know this is money needs to be collected despite everything that's going on? I think you just tell them, Noah, straight out. Here's what we've got to do. Here's what's got to be collected, and guys, and schedule some fundraisers if you have to. I don't know what colony you're from, Noah, but now's the time to sort of, if there are troubles and you find that you're going to have a gap, now's the time to sort of reach out to the alumni that have been helping you and see if there's a fundraiser that can be had there too. The nice thing about getting a charter back is your alumni are as motivated as you are, and will help out to make sure that their chapter's not held up from any of the financial fees. I would say to press hard, Noah, because the last thing you want to do is start out a chapter with any kind of money owed. So try to get that organized, and if you have to trim in the party, instead of making a black tie affair where everybody's got to rent a tux, maybe have a little less semi-formal, maybe instead of the fancy Four Seasons hotel, maybe have it in a much more modest place, knowing that it'll still be an unbelievably awesome time and a fantastic event, one that you'll remember forever, and nobody will remember if it's in a VFW hall or a Four Seasons. So I recommend strongly to cut costs there if you can.
Yeah, and I was just on a call a few days ago with Grand Consul Steve Schuyler, and he did mention that scheduled installations, they're doing everything to make sure that those still go as planned without affecting the dates or anything. So yeah, we really need to make sure that the money's everything get in on time and all that's paid up. Great,
thanks. Darius asks, where exactly will the recorded webinars and PowerPoints be available? Oh, Darius, God love you, brother. If we were that organized, we wouldn't be a fraternity. We'd be a proper business. I don't actually know the answer to your question, but maybe Dakota knows. Dakota, you know where these things are going to be posted and how we might get access to it?
Yeah, we do actually have a webinar website that is newly been announced. I believe in your communication related to when you registered for this, there was a link directing you to that webinar page. But I'm going to post a link as well in the chat function here, so you all have it handy. And we'll have that this webinar along with past webinars that you might have missed, as well as the opportunity to register for any of the upcoming ones there.
Okay, wait, also note that I've been corrected. Vince is not the chapter advisor here. That's Dan Shaver, and I'm sure Vince was in a previous time, so sorry for that. I certainly know Vince's name from being awesome at his role. So thanks for that. All right. I don't see any other questions. I'll pause in case anybody pops up. You're free to ask anything about anything else if you care to. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Well, seeing none, let me just check the hands. I don't actually know how to do that, but yeah, there's a little hand function here. Let me just scroll through and see if they raise their hand. One last chance to raise your hand if you care to, and you can ask your question live. I think. I don't know. We'll try to figure that how to make that work. Nothing. All right. Well, thank you, brothers. I think we're probably going to call it a night.